أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن دعته أوهام الباصرين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين والقاسم محمد والبيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أنعم الله عنهم بالإحسان وطهرهم تطهيرا الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله اللهم صل عليه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والقلم ما يسطرون ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون وإنا لك لأجرا غير ممنون وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم صدق الله العلي العظيم The verse that I recited is the first four ayat of Surah Al-Qalam, chapter number 68 from the Quran. And I recited these very ayat last night as well, but because of the topic of fasting on Ashura, I was not able to elaborate on these verses. And as I promised, inshallah, I'll get more into these ayat. But before we proceed any further, if this is the last lecture, I just wanted to recap the discussions that we had, to very patiently listen and pay attention to, and the discussions that revolve around that ayat from Surah Al-Araf, ayat number 54, that in the Allah الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في ستة أيام. And of course, that ayat where we discussed the terminologies of the word Allah and the word Allah and the proper understanding of these two important terminologies. And then moving along under the title and the topic of Naqsh A'imma, the FDID, the role of imams in the revival of religion. There was not much that we could get into as far as the some of the aspects of the control, but the gists were addressed in a sense that would be addressed the issues through which the problem started. And we labeled and we mentioned two, and we recognized rather, two main problems with that. Number one was the prohibition of narrating the hadith of Rasulullah. And second was distortion of the character of Rasulullah and discrediting the character of Rasulullah. Or in other words, non-Muslims are not the ones who assassinated the character of Rasulullah. This was already done by the Muslims of that time when they assassinated the character of Rasulullah by associating things with him, which what you and I would not even associate with normal, regular human beings in our day and age. People, if we have a little bit of respect to them, we won't even consider or associate those things with Rasulullah. That which you find in the Kalam and the words and in the books, which are known as the authority and Sahih and authentic books. So that was the core of the discussion, which of course span of it was 11 days, in which we discussed all of this. Last night, we touched upon an important discussion of fasting on the day of Ashura, which is again a pertinent thing that comes about every year, especially during Ayyam al-Azha. People raise these questions, especially from the other side. And the conclusion was that the reason they raised this is to um, give don't give limelight to the events of Ashura. They want to take away the importance of the Karbala and Ashura by diverting people's attention toward something else, which of course was, as we proved last night through the ahadith of their books, that how it was something which was man-made and it was put together, did not have any reality or real basis. So that was what was discussed last night. These ayat of Surah Wal-Qalam, which is chapter number 68 from the Holy Quran, begin with an abbreviated alphabet, Nun. In Quran, you find that there are certain chapters that begin with single abbreviated alphabets or hurufe muqatta'at. So you have chapter number 50, which is Surah Qaf. You have another chapter that begins with the alphabet of Swad. And you have the Surah Wal-Qalam, which begins with Nun. There have been speculations. Of course, we do not know with authority as to what these alphabets mean. These are those secret rules between Khalif and his beloved Prophet. This was a means of communication that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had with Rasulullah, and he began with these asrar and rumuz, these secretive words, which Rasulullah did not elaborate for us. So with all the advancement in the world, and with all the tafasir that have been written, there's very little knowledge as to what these abbreviated letters mean. Regarding Nun, people have also speculated based on the other ayat of Quran from the same chapter, Surah Al-Qalam, towards the end. There are ayat which relate to the word Nun. Some say the letter Nun, the sound of it, it is referring to the Arabic alphabet Nun, which sounds as an N. But then what does it mean? So if you write it out, it will be Nun, Vav, and Nun. What does it stand for? Some believe that it stands for that fish, or because it said وَظَنُّونِ إِذْ ذَهَبَ مُغَاضِبًا فَظَنَّ أَنْ لَنْ نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ فَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ. When do you recite this? You recite this in Namaz Ghufayla. وَظَنُّونِ إِذْ ذَهَبَ. وَظَنُّون is referred to Hazrat Yunus alayhi salatu wasalam. And in the same chapter, Surah Al-Qalam, towards the end, you have the ayat which says, لا تكن كصاحب الحوت إذ نادى وهو كظيم. Don't be like the man of the fish, as the people have translated. Sahib al-Hud is the man of the fish, that when he complained while he was angry. So Sahib al-Hud, that Hud being that fish or the whale, whatever you want to call it, the belly of which Hazrat Yunus was in. So they said Noon refers to that same fish.
وَذَنُّونِ إِذْ ذَهَبَ. وَذَنُّون is referred to Hazrat Yunus alayhi salatu wasalam. And in the same chapter, Surah Al-Qalam, towards the end, you have the ayat which says, لا تكن كصاحب الحوت إذ نادى وهو كظيم. Don't be like the man of the fish, as the people have translated. Sahib al-Hud is the man of the fish, that when he complained while he was angry. So Sahib al-Hud, that Hud being that fish or the whale, whatever you want to call it, the belly of which, in which Hazrat Yunus ﷺ was in. So they said Noon refers to that same fish. I think the आवाज़ आ रही, सल्लु अला मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद, आवाज़ आ रही, रिपीट हो रही है आवाज़. So that's what it refers to. That's one speculation. We could take that word as well. Some say, well, no. What is the relationship between Noon and Wal Qalam? If Noon refers to that fish, this will really be very awkward to have a fish and then the pen. What is the relationship between the fish and a pen? So here they say, well, the word noon refers to the ink. And that has correlation with the pen. It makes sense. Noon wal qalam. Noon being the ink, qalam being the pen. And it also makes sense because the third ayah says, وَمَا أَنْتَ بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ بِمَجْنُونَ. O Prophet, by the grace of Allah, you're not majnoon. So there's a relationship between the qalam and junoon and being insane. There's a relationship between the two. So therefore, noon would fit better with the word qalam because qalam has a relationship with junoon. He said, what's the relationship of qalam and junoon? You want to keep this point with you. What is the relationship of qalam with insanity as being discussed in this ayah? I'll come to that. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to show the face of an evil or someone who did not belong in the group, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered things which would normally not be ordered. For example, in the midst of all of the angels, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to point out the face of Iblis, because right now, up until this point, Iblis is what? Iblis is, he's not an angel, but he's in the saf of angels. And he's been worshipping for the past 6,000 years. So he has attained that status. Now Allah wants to show the rest of the angels. They don't know anything about Iblis. He wants to show the face, the real face of Iblis. Kana minal kafirin, as the ayat of Quran later says, that he was always amongst the kuffar. Allah wants to show the angels so that they believe what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to do. He asks for an action which by the standards of today, by many of the Muslims will be considered shirk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered something by the standards of majority of the Muslims today would be considered shirk. Allah asked angels to do sajda to someone other than Him. Allah said to the angels, when He created the structure of Hazrat Adam ﷺ and He blew His soul into him, He ordered the angels to go ahead and do sajda to Hazrat Adam ﷺ. Everyone bowed and prostrated in sajda illa Iblis. Aba wastakbara wa kana minal kafirin. He did not. He showed arrogance and he was always amongst the kafirin, as the ayat indicates. So Allah asked them to do something which I said by the standard of majority of the Muslims today would be considered shirk. But because it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking, they would dare say that Allah is Himself committing shirk. Otherwise, if someone says, we do sajda ta'zeemi to someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, said, no, that's bid'at, that's shirk, don't do that. In fact, when we ask from other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is also considered to be bid'at and shirk. No, ask only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here Allah, not on this occasion, but on another occasion, addresses and allows sajda. Not that I'm promoting doing sajda to the shrines of ma'asumeen or those who are our awliya. No, that's not what is being promoted over here. But the fact of the matter is that there are certain things that we have misunderstood. The sajda which Allah is asking the angels to do is not ta'abbudi, which they were doing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pay attention to this. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not asking them to go ahead and do the sajda as they were doing to Him. In ubudiyat, in ta'abbudiyat, in servitude. Rather, this was merely out of the azamat of Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, that what Allah had created as His representative on the face of the earth, and He had taught him those asma through which these angels were unaware of those asma and those names. Hazrat Adam was taught those names, and when he was given that knowledge, now he was valuable. He had that worth to which people or angels should go ahead and show ta'zeem to him. So how did they show ta'zeem? By prostrating in front of Hazrat Adam alayhi salam by the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who did not do sajda? Iblis did not do sajda. Why? Aba wastakbara. He was too arrogant to do that. He said, khalaqtani min nar wa khalaqtahu min teen. You created me from fire. You created him from the clay. In his mind, fire is superior to clay. Therefore, why should I go ahead and do sajda to you or sajda to him? Oh Allah, I don't want to do shirk. I only want to put my forehead in front of you and no one else. Is that too much to ask? It might be when you are disobeying the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You and I should learn one thing from this, that when we question ahkam ilahi, of course, you and I do not have the ability to deduce these laws. So we have three options. Either we can become mujtahid, or we can become muhtat, or act on precaution, or we can do what is called taqleed. Taqleed would be the easiest choice, as not all of us have the means and availability and the power to go ahead and attain all this ilm. So when someone has done the hard work, deduced the rules, and has provided us with this book of laws to go ahead and act upon, it should be easy for us that we just follow this. Then we raise question, why does this mujtahid say this? Why is this in Tawzi'ul Masail? It doesn't make sense to me, therefore I'm not going to go ahead and follow this. This is similar to what Shaitan did. Aba wastakbara. He said, oh Allah, I don't want to do sajda to anyone except you. I find you to be worthy of sajda. I don't want to do sajda to anyone. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, when I create exception, when I'm ordering something, it is more than the sajda. It is the ta'abbudiyat along with ubudiyat, along with the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That obedience is lacking from you. And hence, when that obedience is lacking from you, you do not belong in this company. So, when Allah wanted to show the ugly face of this angel-like figure, Allah ordered him to do something which none of them were expecting. So, Allah was able to show the face of Shaitan and Iblis amongst the group of angels. Similar tactic was applied by the noble Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. And here comes the relationship between qalam, noon, qalam and majnoon. Noon being the ink, qalam being the pen through which you write, and the word majnoon. Where have you heard these two things together? When Rasulullah was on his deathbed, he asked for a pen and a paper to be provided, qalam and dawat, so that dawat is for the ink, and a paper so that he would write what? Aktubu lakum shay'an lan tadillu ba'di. I will write something for you through which you will not go astray. The words of the recipient of those words that Rasulullah had uttered, one person stands up and says, Kitabullah baynana, we have the book of Allah, which is enough. Innahu la yahjur. This man has gone insane and he is not speaking out of his mind. So maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through these ayat is giving us this prophecy that, oh Prophet, in your life there will come a time when you will ask for a pen and someone will refer to you as a majnoon. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So there Allah displayed the picture of the enemy amongst the angels. Here Rasulullah showed that who belongs in my gathering and who doesn't. What did Prophet say? He said, Qumu inni. Get up and leave from me. I don't want your presence over here. Those were the last words of Rasulullah to these great companions. But nonetheless, so here we understand the relationship of qalam with the word majnoon that is coming in these ayat. So the ayat begins with this huruf muqatta'a. There's single letters that are used. Then there are double letters are also used. For example, you have Hamim, you have Yasin, you have Taha, you have other letters that have been used and coupled together. Once again, we lack the knowledge of what it really means. Neither Prophet nor did the Masumeen share that knowledge with us. Once again, it is the ignorance of insan with all the advancement in the world is still is unable to figure out the words that are being used. And there's a purpose behind it. There's some which are three-lettered, such as Alif Lam Mim, such as Alif Lam Ra, and Ain Sin Qaf. There are such which are 4-lettered, such as Alif, Lam, Mim, Ra. And then there's such which are only 5-lettered. And there's none which are more than the 5-lettered. What are the 5-lettered ones? Such as Ha, Mim, Ain, Sin, Qaf, such as Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad, in the beginning of Surah Maryam. So here we also see the standard that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is setting, where He uses these 5 abbreviated alphabets. He uses these 5 abbreviated letters to display. One of the reasons behind that ulama mention, mufassirin mention, why we have these abbreviated letters is because Quran is a lively miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Living miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in order to grasp the attention of the listener, remember the time that Rasulullah is being sent in. It is the time when everyone is bragging about their prose and poetry. It was the time when these great shu'ara, to which we still use and reference many from the time of Jahiliyyah, because they have produced masterpieces in Arabic literature. So they really took pride in it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a miracle which they can relate to. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent a miracle that He had given to Hazrat Musa, it might not have been very relevant to them. So Allah sends a miracle which is relevant to them and they're able to relate to it. So when Rasulullah wants to penetrate in the hearts of the people and wants to speak to them, He starts out with these unknown single, double, triple letters which these people have never heard of. Because they've never heard of, when Rasulullah says Noon, He grabs the attention of the listener. Right away people are focused. What does He have to say? Noon, we've never heard of it. This sounds strange to our ears. Now when Rasulullah was able to grab their attention, then He would go ahead and give the message. وَالْقَلَمِ وَمَا يَسْطُرُونَ. By the pen and that which you write with your pen. So we see the chronological order of the revelation of the surahs of Quran is different than the one that we have in the Quran. So right now, what is the order that you have Quran at your home? First surah is Surah Fatiha. Second is Surah Baqarah. Third is Surah Al Imran. Fourth is Surah Nisa. Fifth is Surah Maida. Sixth is Surah. Here we stop. 5 tak to chalta hai iske baad se. So this is the order in which we have read the Quran, that Rasulullah put it in this sequence. But is this the sequence in which Quran was revealed? No. Quran was revealed in a different sequence. That also shows you that Rasulullah has prior knowledge to the ayat of Quran. So we believe that Quran was revealed to him in its entirety. So he has prior knowledge of the entire Quran. And when its bits and pieces are being revealed, he said, put this piece over here. Put this piece 10 pages later. Put this piece over here. Put this with these ayat, because some of the ayat were revealed together, some of the ayat were not revealed together. So from the chronological order of the revelation of Quran, the first chapter that is revealed, I'm sure everybody knows, the first 5 ayat of Surah Iqra, Surah Alaq, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, khalaqal insana min alaq, Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram, alladhi allama bil qalam, allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam. These are the first 5 ayat that were revealed unto our Prophet. Read in the name of your Lord. Now, of course, when you ask someone to do something, if I ask someone to do something, I would ask if I have some sort of idea that they will be able to do so. Will I ask my son to go ahead and drive the car? Will I ask someone, let's say you and I all boarded the plane, inshallah one day we all board the plane together to go for the ziyarah of Sayyid al-Shuhada, inshallah. We boarded the plane and the pilot called in sick, and the flight attendant came and says, if there is a pilot amongst you, please come and take over the plane. I think all of us will get off that plane. Because we don't trust, even if you are certified pilot, we don't trust. You're here as a passenger. We don't want to seeing you unless, of course, there's an emergency. But the plane hasn't lifted off yet. We are trusting the one we haven't seen. फिर लोग कहते हैं इल्म गैब और unseen पे कैसे यकीन कर लें. We're trusting the pilot that we haven't even seen. But we're not going to trust our loved one because that person has more knowledge of it. With that said, you and I will get off that plane because we don't want to be in the plane which is going to be in the air 30,000 feet and an amateur pilot flying this. So when you and I want to ask someone to do something which they're not professionals in doing so, why do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will pose in front of Prophet which he knows that Prophet is unable to do so? So that proves the point that when Allah is asking him to read, he's not asking him that which he does not know already. We have proven the fact when Allah said, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr, all of Quran was revealed to the heart of Rasulullah and he knew the entire Quran. When Allah asks him to read, read in the name of your Lord, the one who taught you with pen, the one who taught you when you did not know. And these first ayat were revealed. So, first chapter that is revealed begins with word Iqra. Guess what's the second chapter that was revealed? Surah Al-Qalam, chapter number 68. You see the first two revelations of Quran, brothers and sisters. The first two very revelations of Quran, one is to read and second one is to write. Emphasis that Islam lays upon how important it is for one to learn to read and write. Reading and writing is symbol and symbolic for attaining education. Ilm is something which is important for you. Allah does not want to see people uneducated. That's why we have so many riwayat in this reference from Ma'asumeen. He said, I love a follower who is either educated or in the path of attaining education. So therefore, don't ever stop learning, thinking that I've learned everything and this is a stop for me. We are the followers of those who taught us utlubul ilm min al-mahdi ila al-lahd. Learn and seek knowledge from your cradle till your grave. Why? Because the riwayat mentioned on the day of judgment, tuzanu midadul ulama wa dima'ush shuhada. On the day of judgment, two things will be measured. They will be weighed. अगर आप तराजू को picture करें, the balance scale, on one part of the scale, you will have the dima of shuhada, the blood of the martyrs, which is of course highly, important. And on the other side, you will have what? Midadul ulama. Midad is that which is written work. The work of ulama, the pen of ulama. And Allah subhanahu, the riwayah says, Tuzanu midadul ulama wa dima'u shuhada on the day of judgment. فَيَرْجِحُ midadul ulama ala dima' shuhada. You know what will be more weighty? The midad of ulama will have more weight than the dima of shuhada. It's not undermining the dima and the blood of the martyr. It is just showing you the importance of the written work of the scholars. That is something which has superiority. Why? Because ulama and the scholars, which are in the true sense scholars, they are the ones who are able to avert and get rid of all of these wars so that blood of shuhada is not needed at all. In order to cause peace, ulama's role should be of that sense. But qalam is very important. Why is it important? Qalam is something which connects mazi with hal. If the qalam did not exist, we would not have the knowledge of the prior. It taught us through this qalam that which has been documented from the past up until now has come through this qalam. We would have been unaware of the rich history of Islam if it wasn't for this qalam. So therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by the qalam. He takes an oath by the qalam. That is the importance of this qalam and that which is written with it. Third ayah says, مَا أَنْتَ بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ بِمَجْنُونَ. I already explained the relevance to that, O Prophet, Don't worry about what these people are saying. By the grace of Allah, you are not majnoon. And the last ayat that I recited, the two ayat, وَإِنَّ لَكَ لَأَجْرًا غَيْرَ مَمْنُونَ. Allah will give you the ajr and the reward which is never ending. Why? إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. Because you are at the highest standard of morality. I want to conclude with this highest standard of morality. Rasulullah on numerous occasions said what? إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I've been sent to do what? To perfect the akhlaq and the ethics. You know, we have three things in our deen. If someone asks you what is deen, deen is the name of three A's: aqaid, ahkam, and akhlaq. If you have aqaid, which is the beliefs, you have the ahkam, which is the laws, but you're lacking the akhlaq, you're lacking the ethics, guess what? The first two has no value whatsoever. Akhlaq is that important that you can become a faqih and a mufassir and an educator, but as long as you're lacking the akhlaq, people will leave you. That is what Rasulullah is being taught in Quran as well. That, O Prophet, that if you did not have these akhlaq, these people would have stranded you long time ago. كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَنْفَضُّ مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you were stern-hearted, these people would have stranded you a long, long time ago. The fact that we made you to be soft-hearted. Soft-hearted means that we made you at the highest morality, level of highest morality. We are the followers of such individuals. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. When Imam is coming to Kufa, on his way, there's a companion who became a companion on the way. He was not a Muslim. He was going to Basra. Imam was going to Kufa. As they were walking on the same path for a long, long time until they went their own directions. He knew that Imam was headed towards Kufa, and Imam knew that he was headed towards, Basra. It's like, two opposite directions after you reach that one common point. So therefore, Imam walked with him, spoke, became a companion of his travel. And when the time came for them to separate, they bid farewell. He started walking in the direction of Basra. Imam should have walked in the direction of Kufa. But instead, Imam started walking in his direction. Imam walked for a little bit. He said, I thought you were headed to Kufa. I said, I am. Up until this point, Imam has not revealed who he is. He's Ali ibn Abi Talib. He's Khalifatul Muslimin. He's Imam al-Muttaqeen. He's the leader of Madhab Islam. And he's the follower of Quran. And he's the follower of Islam. He doesn't really reveal anything. Imam, just like Prophet, is educating this man and impressing him with his akhlaq. Rasulullah impressed with akhlaq for 40 years. Imam is impressing this man with his akhlaq by walking with him. Small act of gesture. This man says, I thought you were going to Kufa. I said, yes, I am. But my madhab teaches me that when you are a companion with someone, you should walk a few steps bidding farewell to your partner. Let me give you an example. Someone comes and visits you from your homeland, from India, from Pakistan. Before COVID, this was a possibility. Now it's not. We might be a long time ago that happened. You say, well, when was that? It was far distant memory. No, inshallah, it'll come back to being normal again. So you had your, family member visiting you from India or Pakistan. They came to US. They stayed with you for a couple of weeks. And then, whether it was good upon you or not, their stay. But when it's time for them to leave, do you just say, well, I'll give you a cab and you can go? Courtesy is that I'll take you to the airport. I'll take you to the airport. I'll drop you off. I'll park my car because you've come from overseas. That is the haqq of a guest, regardless of how it was with us for the past 2 weeks. But this is the least I could do, is take you with respect to the airport. Imam is doing the same thing. He walks with this stranger. Few steps, he says, why are you doing this? He said, well, my deen, my madhab teaches me. This is the akhlaq of my madhab, to bid farewell to your companion in this way. He said, what religion is this? Then Imam says, I follow the religion of Rasulullah. I follow the religion of Islam. This man has such deep impact. Just this gesture of Amirul Mu'mineen, and of course the discussion that he had with Imam all this way, while Imam never mentioned who he was, that he says, I like to join this sort of deen. I want to be part of this sort of madhab that teaches that level of humanity, that you walk with a stranger even if you're going opposite direction of your own destination. So he embraces Islam. The point is that you don't have to say that I'm a Muslim to show your character. Your character should be speaking louder, saying, yes, this is how Muslims behave. This is how mu'mineen behave. This is how a follower of the maktab of Ahl Tashayyu behaves. And we have learned that and we respect that. یہ ہونا چاہیے انسان کا کردار, تاکہ سامنے والا دیکھ کے کردار کو سمجھے کہ تم کس مکتب سے بلونگ کرتے ہو, نہ یہ کہ ہمیں کہنا پڑے کہ ہم اس مکتب کے ہیں یا ہم اس مکتب سے ہیں. لہٰذا یہی کردار تھا کہ جو آپ کو کربلا میں نظر آتا ہے, کہ جس کردار کو دیکھ کر کے اتنے سارے لوگ جن کا کوئی تعلق نہیں تھا, مقصد نہیں تھا, نہ ہی ذہن و گمان میں تھا کہ وہ آئیں گے, لیکن چونکہ انہوں نے یہ کردار دیکھے. امام کردار ساز ہے. شاید حضرت حر کے مصائب میں نے یہ بات نہیں کہی تھی کہ امام نے حر کی کردار سازی کی ہے. جب حر نے آ کے امام کو روکا ہے اور راستے کو کاٹا ہے, امام نے کردار سازی کی ہے ادھر, اپنے الفاظ کے ذریعے, اپنے کلمات کے ذریعے. اے حر, جاؤ اپنی نماز پڑھ لو. کہا آپ کے ہوتے ہوئے ہم اپنی نماز نہیں پڑھیں گے, آپ کے ساتھ ہی نماز پڑھیں گے. پھر جب امام حرکت کرنا چاہتے ہیں تو لجام فرس کو پکڑ لیا. امام نے دوسرا وار کیا, اے حر, تیری ماں تیرے غم میں بیٹھے. امام کے یہ الفاظ حر نے سنا, برداشت کیا. کہتا ہے کہ اگر کسی اور نے یہ جملے ادا کیے ہوتے تو میں ویسے ہی جواب دیتا, مگر کیا کروں, آپ کی مادر گرامی سیدت نساء عالمین ہیں, دختر رسول ہیں, فاطمۃ الزہرا ہیں, میں آپ کے بارے میں یہ بات نہیں کہہ سکتا. یہ امام کی طرف سے کردار سازی ہو رہی ہے حر کی. حر کو جگایا جا رہا ہے, جھنجھوڑا جا رہا ہے حر کے کردار کو. جس کردار میں اچھائی پائی جاتی ہے بس جگانے کی ضرورت ہے. اگر جاگ گیا تو ہمارے ساتھ آ جائے گا. اور وہی ہوا. امام کے یہ الفاظ, یہ کلمات اتنا رسوخ کیا حر کے دل میں کہ روز عاشور یا شب عاشور حر کہہ رہا تھا کہ میں اپنے آپ کو جنت اور جہنم کے درمیان مختار پا رہا ہوں. یعنی کیا اختیار ہے میرے پاس, جنت میں جاؤں یا جہنم میں جاؤں, جنت کو چوز کروں یا جہنم کو چوز کروں. اور ہاں, میں جنت کو چوز کرنا چاہتا ہوں. اس طریقے سے حضرت حر اور امام حسین نے کردار سازی کی ہے حر کی. بس میں آخری کلمات کی طرف آپ کو لے کے آؤں. 12 محرم الحرام آتی ہے, وہ دن ہے کہ شہداء کے لاشیں 3 دن سے بے گور و کفن پڑے ہوئے ہیں, بے گور و کفن. اور کیا گزر رہی ہوگی اہل حرم پہ, یہ بات سوچ سوچ کے. ان کو کوفے میں لا کر کے ابن زیاد کے سامنے کھڑا کیا گیا. ابن زیاد نے وہ ہتک کی امام حسین کے سر کو منگوا کے اس چھڑی کے ساتھ بدتمیزی اور ہتک کی امام کے سر کے ساتھ. ایک بزرگ نے ادھر آواز اٹھائی کہ اے ابن زیاد, میں نے ان لبوں پہ رسول کو بوسہ دیتے ہوئے دیکھا ہے, یہ عمل نہ کر. جناب زینب کو جب اس نے رسوا کرنے والے کلمات استعمال کیے کہ دیکھو خدا نے کیسے تمہیں رسوا کیا, خدا نے کیسا تم سے کام لیا, تو جناب زینب نے پلٹ کے کہا ما رأیت الا جمیلا, جو کچھ ہوا اللہ کی چاہنے کی وجہ سے ہوا, اور اس میں سوائے خوبصورتی کے, سوائے خوبی کے مجھے کچھ نظر نہیں آتا. بس دیکھ لیا کہ ان کا کردار کس منزل پہ ہے، کہا ان سب کو زندان میں ڈال دیا جائے۔ مسجد اعظم کے قریب جو زندان تھا وہاں پہ ان سب کو قید خانے میں ڈال دیا جاتا ہے۔ ادھر سے امام زین العابدین علیہ السلام بے اعجاز امام زین العابدین میریکل کے ساتھ آتے ہیں، رات کے اندھیرے میں پہنچتے ہیں کربلا کی اس سرزمین پہ جہاں یہ لاشیں بے گور و کفن 3 دن سے پڑے ہوئے تھے۔ بنی اسد کو تھوڑی سی ہمت ہوئی تھی جب دیکھا کہ یہ سارے لوگ جا چکے ہیں، اب ہمت کر کے باہر آتے ہیں تاکہ ان لاشوں کو ٹھکانے لگا سکیں۔ یاد ہے جب امام حسین کربلا میں داخل ہوئے تھے، امام نے اس سرزمین کی قیمت ادا کی تھی، اس کو امام نے خریدا تھا، اور خریدنے کے بعد سے ان سے تقاضا کیا تھا جب ہمارے لاشیں زمین پہ پڑے ہوئے ہوں تو تم سے گزارش ہے کہ تم ان کی تدفین کر دینا۔ لیکن جب بنی اسد آتے ہیں، دیکھتے ہیں کہ یہ لاشیں بغیر سر کے ہیں، کون سے لاشیں کو کہاں دفنایا جائے، کیسا نام لگایا جائے، کیسے پتہ کون کہاں کس کی تدفین ہو، بس اسی کشمکش میں تھے کہ دور سے ایک گھڑ سوار کو آتے ہوئے دیکھا۔ ایک دفعہ ڈر گئے کہ کہیں ابن زیاد کے لوگ تو نہیں آ رہے ہیں، اس نے تو کوئی اپنا کارندہ نہیں بھیج دیا ہے۔ لیکن جیسے جیسے وہ گھڑ سوار قریب آتا گیا، ان کی ہمت بڑی۔ اس گھڑ سوار نے اپنا چہرہ جب دکھایا نقاب ہٹا کے تو دیکھا امام زین العابدین با اعجاز آتے ہیں۔ امام سرزمین کربلا میں دوسری مرتبہ داخل ہوتے ہیں، آتے ہیں، بنی اسد سے کہتے ہیں ڈرنے کی ضرورت نہیں ہے، میں نشاندہی کروں گا کہ یہ کس کا جنازہ ہے اور اس کو کہاں دفنانا ہے۔ امام نے ایک ایک جنازے کی نشاندہی کی، ان تمام جنازوں کو گنج شہیدہ میں دفن کیا اور حضرت عباس کے جنازے کو وہیں رہنے دیا فرات کے پاس جہاں حضرت عباس نے تقاضا کیا تھا۔ اور جب امام حسین کے جنازے کی بات آئی، امام حسین کے لاشے کی بات آئی تو امام حسین کو جب اتارنے لگے تو ایک دفعہ بنی اسد نے امام کے جسم پہ کچھ ایسے زخموں کے نشان دیکھے جو معروف نہ تھے۔ انہوں نے پوچھا امام زین العابدین سے، ہمیں تیروں کے، خنجر کے، تلوار کے نشان تو بخوبی واضح ہیں، لیکن ایسے نیل پڑے ہوئے تھے امام کے جسم پہ جو ہم سمجھ نہیں پا رہے کہ یہ کس چیز کے نشان ہوں گے۔ امام زین العابدین نے بیان کیا یہ نشان کربلا میں نہیں پڑے، کربلا کے نشان تو وہی ہیں کہ جو میں سمجھ آ رہے ہیں۔ ارے یہ نشان جو نیل کے تمہیں نظر آتے ہیں میرے بابا کے کندھوں پہ یا ان کے پشت کے اوپر یہ سالہ سال کی محنت سے نشان پڑے۔ میرے بابا کا یہ طریقہ تھا، جب تک مدینے میں تھے روزانہ رات میں نکلتے تھے غریب اور ان لوگوں کی خدمت کے لیے کہ جن کے پاس کچھ نہ ہوتا تھا، روزانہ کھانا پہنچانے کی خدمت انجام دیتے تھے، اور یہ نشانات انہی غذا کی چیزوں کو اٹھانے کے ہیں۔ اجرکم اللہ۔ بس اس طریقے سے امام زین العابدین نے ایک ایک کر کے جنازے کو تدفین کی۔ کسی طریقے سے جب تدفین ہو گئی امام بے اعجاز دوبارہ پلٹ جاتے ہیں کوفہ۔ لیکن جب امام پلٹ کے آئے ہیں، جب امام مدینہ پہنچے ہیں، امام سے پوچھا جاتا تھا امام کھانا کھا لیجئے تو امام گریا کرتے تھے، امام کچھ پی لیجئے تو امام گریا کرتے تھے۔ کہا مولا آپ معصوم ہیں، آپ کو کیسے تلقین کی جائے، کب تک گریا کریں گے؟ امام نے کہا تو نے انصاف نہ کیا۔ ارے یعقوب کے 11 فرزند میں سے ایک ان کی آنکھوں سے اوجھل ہو گیا تھا، کچھ عرصے کے لیے اتنا گریہ کیا کہ قرآن میں آیت ہے وَبِيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ، ارے ان کی آنکھیں زائل ہو گئی تھی، میرے سامنے میرے جوانوں کو ذبح کیا گیا اور میں ان کے لیے گریہ نہ کروں۔ الا لعنۃ اللہ القوم الظالمین وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون ان اللہ و انا الیہ راجعون۔ بارالہ ہماری اس بات قبول فرما، ہم گناہ گار ہیں، ہمارے گناہوں سے درگزر فرما، ہمیں اہل بیت علیہ السلام کے نقش قدم کی توفیق عطا فرما، ہمیں ان کی تعلیمات پر عمل کرنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، ان کے ظہور میں تعجیل فرما، ان کے اعوان الصالح میں شمار کر۔ ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع العلیم۔ ماتم حسین۔